A blood red moon is a powerful omen, but what does it mean when that happens 4 times in 2 years? A tetrad of total lunar eclipses is a rare phenomenon, and sometimes whole centuries go without it happening even once. But these mega omens seem to have particular meaning for the Jews. When they've coincided with Jewish holidays, we've seen extremely important events in the history of the Jewish people and Zionism. In fact, the most important years in the history of Israel came when blood moon eclipses stacked one on top of each other. In 2025 and 2026, we've seen 3 consecutive blood moons, and we're about to see another lunar eclipse with about 93% totality, marking another near tetrad of blood moons. What's coming? In this episode, I'm joined by Singapore-based astrologer Donny Lim, who's been tracking the history of blood moon eclipses to unpack how they've shaped Jewish history and to think about where things might be heading in that region in the coming years. As you can see, I'm not in my usual habitat at this time. I'm on holiday in an undisclosed location this month, touching grass and falling asleep to cicada song. But don't worry, normal service will nevertheless continue. Please give the video a like and do subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps to butter up the dreaded algorithm, and I appreciate it. And a quick announcement about the next World Astrology Report live stream. It's called The New Age Illusion: Why the Golden Age Never Comes. And we're going to be digging into all those predictions of a coming golden age, whether that's a new age version, the Aquarian age of spiritual advancement, or the tech version, the AI-driven golden age of total abundance. The stream is taking place on Saturday, July the 18th, 2026, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. UTC. And I'm changing the way I do things on the channel a little bit from this month onwards. Now and going forward, the first part of the stream will be free for everyone on YouTube. The second part will be exclusive for members of the channel here on YouTube at correspondent tier and for members of the website. Website membership offers by far the best value, and I'd love to see you over there. Hint, hint. You can also just purchase entry to part 2 of this stream on the live streams page of worldastrologyreport.com. And now, without further ado, let's get into this interview with Donny Lim. Donny Lim, welcome to World Astrology Report.
Thank you, finally.
Yeah, it's been in the offing for a while, but it's great to finally have you here. And we've got some pretty exciting stuff to talk about today. In particular, a tetrad or near tetrad of blood moon eclipses. So, for those watching, fill people in. What is a tetrad of blood moon eclipses?
Well, basically, a official tetrad of blood moon eclipses will be 4 consecutive total lunar eclipses that's also called blood moons. And they happen consecutively to each other, usually in intervals of roughly 6 months or slightly less. And there's a lot of symbology behind this, as I've dug a little bit deeper and found that this phenomena in the sky is usually tied to what's going on in recent years regarding what's happening with the GAZA part of the world.
Right. So maybe just to make it clearer for those who aren't aware, why are some eclipses blood moon eclipses and others aren't?
Well, first and foremost, the main difference that differentiates the different kind of eclipses will be the proximity of the lunar nodes to where the sun and moon basically resides. The closer the nodal axis in transit is very close to the full moon point in this case, this actually creates that phenomena. So we can see the moon reflecting the sun's rays completely, and the whole moon, as we see it from Earth's perspective, becomes blood red. Yeah.
Right. So basically, sometimes we get partial lunar eclipses. The moon doesn't turn blood red. It only really does that in a total lunar eclipses. And then sometimes we get 4 of these total blood moon eclipses in a row. So there's no partial eclipses that are breaking that sequence up. So we have 4 appearances of blood moons in the sky. That basically is what you
consecutively.
count.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that tell us? What does it mean?
Well, I mean, if I were to be honest, a tetrad of total blood moon eclipses don't come often. The last time that it happened was in 2014 to 2015. The previous one happened in 2003 to 2004. And the next one will be in 2032 to 2033. By the way, I just want to alert the audience that right now in 2025 to 2026, we do have this near-tetrad of total blood moon eclipses because we have 3 consecutive total blood moon eclipses, and then the 4th one, it is technically considered a partial. But having said that, more than 80% of the moon will be eclipsed coming up in late August 2026. So I do kind of also consider that as a near tetrad of blood moon eclipses. But more importantly is due to as above, so below, what actually was happening since 2023 in that part of the world. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding right, this is basically a kind of mega omen. We could say, any eclipse is an omen anyway, but we have the moon turning blood red 4 consecutive times in 2 years. Is that a good way to think about it?
Yeah, I mean, in short, you can think about it. Yeah.
And from what I understand, you've been influenced in your thinking about these blood moon eclipses by a book written by a Christian pastor, John Hagee. This book,
Yes.
Four Blood Moons, Something is About to Change. Could you tell us about what he says in that book about blood tetrads of blood moon eclipses?
Well, basically, in his book, with the title that you just mentioned, he presented the theory that 4 consecutive, in this case, total blood moon lunar eclipses, known as a tetrad, particularly when it occurs on Jewish related holidays, they usually represent a divine sign signaling significant upcoming events um, for Israel and the world. In short, yeah.
So sometimes do all 4 of the eclipses fall on the same days as Jewish holidays? Is that what happens?
The one that I can remember the most in recent months will be the event that happened on Bondi, Australia, because that was when the transit nodal axis activated a total blood moon eclipse that's going to happen a few months later on March 3rd, I think 2026. I think the transit nodal axis was at 12 to 13 degrees of Virgo and Pisces back then. And then the activation happened. And we've got the Bondi Beach incident. Yeah.
Mm. And that was at the same. So there was a link there to one of the Jewish holidays, I guess.
Yes, because they were celebrating Hanukkah.
I see. So when we get a tetrad of blood moons, are you saying that sometimes have they all 4 of them fallen on Jewish holidays? Is that what you're saying?
Not usually all, but if one or more, it usually has that flavor of things woven into it. Yeah.
I see. Now, I know you've got some pretty interesting examples from history of when this has happened in the past. And perhaps we can just go through those examples so we can give people a picture of how these tetrads of blood moon eclipses have actually played out in particular vis-a-vis Jewish people, Israel, and those kind of themes?
I mean, the first tetrad of blood moon eclipses that occurred, quoted from his book, by the way, John Hagee, happened in 1493 to 1494. And this basically coincides with a major turning point in the fate of the Jewish people, because on March 31st, 1492, slightly before that, Spain passed a law expelling about 200,000 Jews from their country. And among them, 50 to 100,000 of them chose to convert to Christianity, becoming known as Moranos or crypto Jews or New Christians who remained in Spain. However, in the following 2 years, as the tetrad of blood moon eclipses phased in one by one, the Spanish Inquisition intensified the prosecution of the Moranos, imprisoning many, confiscating their properties, and even burning them at the stake. And these disasters marked a significant turning point in the Jewish people's fate, aligning the tetrad of blood moon eclipses that occurred over that time. And meanwhile, Jews who left Spain during this period faced a series of transformation and challenges as well. And the Jewish population in Palestine began to increase in the 16th century. The Safed became the center of Jewish mysticism, known as the Kabbalah. This is the first one that really came up. And additionally, I just want to add something to that. A few Moranos arrived in the Americas with Spanish colonizers whilst secretly maintaining their Jewish identity, forming the foundation for later Jewish communities in Latin America.
Okay, so this pattern basically goes back, well, very far in history.
Longer.
We've gone back
Of the back.
more than 500 years there. Things get even more interesting when we move to the 20th century. Israel was founded on May the 14th, 1948. The next day, an Arab coalition declared war on Israel, launching the First Arab-Israeli War. That war ended on March the 10th of 1949, just before a tetrad of blood moon eclipses through 1949 and 1950. All 4 of those eclipses coincided with Jewish holidays.
On 13th of April 1949, another total lunar blood moon eclipse occurred or happened during the signing of what we call the Armistice Agreement, signaling the near end of this war. On 7th of October 1949, another blood moon total lunar eclipse occurred or appeared after the war had ended. And Israel began to consolidate its territory and absorbing approximately 100,000 Jewish immigrants. So a lot of things happened during this tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses, particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty interesting. So, that's already one pretty interesting hit for the 20th century. But I think where this is quite compelling is when you tell us that the next one of these kinds of events came in 1967 and 68, which was also very important.
Oh, yes, because the next important tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses occurred in 1967 to 1968, with 1967 corresponding to the Six-Day War and the subsequent tensions after Israel unified Jerusalem. While in 1968, this corresponds to the growing pressure from the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO in short, and the international community. And on 22nd of November 1967, the UN Security Council called on Israel to withdraw from occupied territories in exchange for peace. Israel back then accepted this resolution, but refused to fully withdraw its troops, while Arab nations did not fully accept it either. That leads to the continued conflict that persists today, present day. And in 1968, the PLO, or Palestinian Liberation Organization, their activities intensified. And after December of 1967, cross-border attacks from the PLO escalated. So there's a whole bunch of things that's going on in that part of the world, in modern-day Israel and the surrounding Arab nations.
Right, right. So let's move forward in time again. And I understand that we also had another set of these blood moon eclipses, another tetrad in 2014 and 15. What happened at that time?
This family of total lunar blood moon eclipses, an official or technical tetrad, corresponds with the turbulence within the Middle East, particularly the 2014 Gaza war and the rise of the ISIS threat. From 8th of July to 26th of August 2014, Israel and Hamas engaged in the Gaza war, stemming from the unresolved issues of occupied territories that began after the 1967 Six-Day War. And this war broke out just as the 2014 to 2015 tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses occurred. And during the first and second one in 2014 itself, ISIS did rose to power. And after the blood moon eclipse occurred on 4th of April 2015, the group's territorial expansion peaked. And following the total lunar blood moon eclipse on 28th of September 2015, a wave of intense conflict erupted between Israel and Palestine, lasting till March of 2016. So you can see how this period basically is shaped by this tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses.
All right. Well, let's now move closer to the present then, because
Cool.
2020, well, obviously 2023 was a big year for this part of the world.
We all know what happened on October 7th.
We do. So we had that, obviously, and that was pretty close to an eclipse as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Basically, later on, we'll go on to talk about what we call a technique called lunar shadows. And the very first of this current near-tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses, there was a seeding moment that happened in the middle of September 2023. And we all know what happened 3 weeks later.
Yeah, okay. So we'll come back to that a little bit when we talk about our lunation families. But right now, 2025 and 2026, we've almost had another one of these tetrads of blood moon
Almost.
eclipses. We've had 3 blood moon eclipses in a row, and we are about to get a almost total eclipse.
Technically partial.
Partial. It's technically partial, but it's on August the 28th, but it's pretty close to totality, but not quite. So we have an almost tetrad of blood moon eclipses. Do you want to take us through the dates of those eclipses and what's been happening and what we can say about this series of eclipses this time?
Basically, the current 2025 to 2026 near-tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses. The first one started in the middle of March 2025. The second one occurred on the end of first week in September. 2025, so around 6 months later. And then moving forward another 6 months later, on 3rd of March 2026 of this year, we did have our so-called hat trick of total lunar blood moon eclipses. And the last one to round it off will be technically a partial lunar eclipse, but more than 80% of the moon will be eclipsed. So I consider that a near-tetrad, to be honest.
And what have we seen, though, at those eclipses? Did we see some developments or important developments in that part of the world around the time of each of those eclipses? Do you want to take us through that?
I mean, initially, when in terms of timeline, when the initial attacks happened on Gaza, as I mentioned earlier, there was a new moon seeding moment of the very first of the near-tetrad total blood moon eclipses that occurred in the middle of September 2023. And then, of course, moving a bit forward, we've got October 7th. Then from October 7th to 27th of 2023, that's when the initial attacks on Gaza occurred. And as we move along with the timeline, we will find that because there will be overlapping influences of this current tetrad of blood moon eclipses on an energetic level, as time moves, the attacks became more vicious. And now, of course, there's also the Greater Israel Project. And we've all seen what's been going on in southern Lebanon. Yeah.
Do you want to maybe fill people in and just describe what's going on, and for those who haven't followed?
Well, I mean, in the recent Capricorn full moon at the end of June 2026, people can Google the term, was it C3000 Lebanon? It's not regarding any cars. You have to scroll further down, much further down, to look at what's going on. Basically, something in which the intensity and magnitude not seen since Hiroshima has occurred in southern Lebanon. So,
yeah, I have seen some videos that they've been dropping some absolutely gargantuan bombs down there, and there are some, as I say, some footage of that, just absolutely enormous explosions. Supposedly these are conventional weapons, but they look like something bigger than that, right?
definitely.
Maybe we can go backwards a little bit and just explain to people how you're linking that lunation just before October 7th to this tetrad using the lunar gestation technique, just for people who aren't familiar with that technique and don't know how you can link together these different lunations.
Shall I share my screen? I think that's the best kind of show and tell way, because
Sure, go ahead.
this will be pretty hard to imagine. We are using this technique called the lunar shadows, and this is a technique that is pioneered by astrologer Dietrich Pessin. Pardon me if I butchered your name, but she basically correlated that a certain lunation of any form, be it whether it leads to an eclipse in the midst of unfoldment or otherwise, you can actually use this lunar shadows to tie seemingly disparate lunation points together. And she coined or termed the concept as lunar gestation cycles. And this basically tracked life events over a total period of 36 months, perhaps sometimes even longer if there's certain activations that's occurring that extends this lunar effect further than 36 months or 3 calendar years. So how she explains it is that there's actually a 4-part development. So there's the new moon, and then via the lunar shadows technique, 9 calendar months later, there will be a corresponding waxing quarter moon that's going to be serving as an important turning point. And as I've mentioned here, there is something that's being brought to action. There could be obstacles that's occurred, or this can be like a push forward of sorts, just like how a waxing lunar lunar cycle represents symbolically. And then later on, 9 months later, we reach the full moon phase. So this occurs 9 plus 9, so it's 18 months after the seed new moon moment occurred. And this will bring certain themes or certain potential manifestations into full bloom. There can be some kind of clarity or some kind of public exposure as well, because as we know, a full moon is when the sun and moon opposes each other, and that's when things are in full view of it all. And then moving 9 months later, which means now we shift to 27 months approximately after the new moon was seeded, we will have a waning quarter moon lunar phase. And this represents some kind of reaping of what has occurred, some kind of reevaluation, some kind of harvest, or some kind of wrapping up of sorts, where we come to this seed moment that happened 27 months later. And people basically can use this lunar shadows technique for predictive purposes to kind of track, particularly when a new moon point has triggered something in their chart. Then it takes a total of 36 months for it to completely unfold. And within that unfoldment, in intervals of 9 months, a certain new moon can become a total lunar eclipse, which was indeed what happened in this current near-tetrad of total blood moon eclipses. And you can also track solar eclipses that basically highlighted some parts of your chart, and see how the next 3 years will happen for you over 9-month intervals. I guess that's the best way to explain things.
No, yeah, you did a good job. That's the technique for sure. Maybe it would be good if you could take us through an example, though, of just how one of these families kind of unfolds, because we have a new moon rather, on 15th of September 2023, just a little bit before October 7th. Yeah, maybe you could just take us through that family and what happened.
So I guess the new moon phase, pardon me, is very self-explanatory. Like 3 weeks later, when this Virgo new moon occurred, that 3 weeks later, we've got October 7, 2023, and it just kind of blew up from there. And I've basically highlighted in red the total lunar blood moon eclipse dates. The first one being middle of March 2025, so 18 months after this 15th of September 2023 new moon happened. And then the next total lunar blood moon eclipse happened at the end of the first week of September, 6 months later, approximately, after the first one. And then 6 months later, on 3rd of March 2026, we've got our so-called hat trick of total blood moon eclipses. And to tie things back to what I said earlier, what happened on Bondi Beach in December, middle of December 2025, the transit nodal axis basically activated this total lunar eclipse point. And they were celebrating the first day of Hanukkah? There.
So the nodal axis ran over the
12 to 13 degrees of verbal
yeah,
crises back then.
the nodal axis at the time of the Bondi Beach event had aligned with the position of the eclipse of the 3rd of March, basically. Is that and that 3rd of March eclipse was on Purim, I think, another Jewish festival, and of course, this was just after the war in Iran was launched.
Right. So there you go, like the story just weaves itself into the whole story of the fate of the Jewish people. So there's actually substance behind the book as I went down the rabbit hole with it.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. We've got these. We've had all these different eclipses happening. Eclipses obviously last a certain amount of time. There's different opinions about how long they last, but your thesis is basically that all these eclipses have kind of piled on top of each other,
They
and
do. They
so we're at a time now, since so many of these eclipses have signified big developments in the Middle East, in Palestine, in Israel, in
Now,
Lebanon, etc. That
yeah.
there's a kind of piling up of energies. Is that roughly what you're saying and how you're seeing things now?
Yes, if I actually sync how these developmental stages of these lunations that unfolded to a lunar eclipse, in this case, some total, one partial, most total, one partial, we basically see like a sequence of events, because I've basically dug up a timeline of events as listed for the audience here. And I've basically tagged the period of occurrence to any of the unfolding phases that you see on this table here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got 16 dates that I have tagged according to what happened from October 7, 2023 till now. And as we move forward from October 7, 2023, we will see that there's overlapping. Like, for example, the first one being the El Mawazi attack. This basically tie in the lunation families of 1 and 3. 1 and 3. And as we move down, you can see there's more and more being, shall I call, included. And if we actually look at the timeline and see the ferocity or intensity of things, particularly the very last one from October 2025 till now, it's not only Gaza, West Bank, but now southern Lebanon as well. Because we've got the energies of all 4 lunation families being included here. And by the way, I just want to mention that the full impact of all 4 lunation families, the very last one will finish is gestation only at the end of February 2028. Surprisingly, I found something very telling regarding what's happening on that Pisces new moon on February 25th, 2028. And that is coming from Jupiter in the sky, then will be in Virgo. And where Jupiter will sit at the end of February 2028 will be the new moon point over here in the middle of September 2023. Does that mean I see things ending? I doubt so. But then I suppose Jupiter can give us some hope, right?
Sometimes for sure. So if we were to try and pull all this together, what's your forecast, if you have one, for what we can maybe expect for this lunar eclipse 28th of August 2026, and then going forward, pulling all this information together?
To be honest, if I look at things on a mundane level, because the very last of the near-tetrad of total blood moon eclipses, this is a partial one, highlighted in brown, happening on 28th of August 2026. This will be on the fixed star Fomalhaut. At the same time, there will be a very tight square to Uranus in Gemini. And as we know what Uranus is about anything that could be nuclear. So there could be threats of using that, first and foremost, because it's a square. But having said that, there's also connotations of the fixed star Fomalhaut to Archangel Gabriel as well. So he's the bringer of divine messages. And because this partial lunar eclipse will be squaring Uranus, there could be divine intervention as well. I can't deny that because of that linkage to Archangel Gabriel.
Okay. Wow. And generally speaking, then, it seems like your research points in the direction of things actually getting more intense in the Middle East over the next couple of years. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I would say so. And that's because this is compounded actually with something that you have discussed on your channel, and that's the Mars and Saturn conjunction cycles that last for approximately 2 years. And we've just had one back in April. Was it? Yeah, April 2026. And that one was conjuncting Mercury as well, from 7 to 9 degrees of Aries. And that particular conjunction that will unfold till end of April 2028 is very telling, particularly with Mercury configured with Mars and Saturn together. And that's because 7 to 9 degrees of Aries, it will square, or should I say it was squaring, the Mercury of Bibi, Netanyahu, and Trump. So I find that very intriguing that it squared their natal Mercuries respectively.
Interesting. Wow.
So do I see things simmering down perhaps in 2028? It won't be as intense, but till then I don't see things like slowing down in terms of pace. Yeah.
You mentioned both Bibi and Trump there being affected by the Mars, Saturn, Mercury conjunction, particularly hitting their Mercuries. Do you think that can be read as saying something about the relations between the two of them? Because they seem to be at least at least trying to create the appearance, say on Trump's part, of some having some displeasure with Bibi.
If you think about what Mercury rule in Trump's chart, it basically rules his Uranus, Sun, and one half of his nodal axis because he's born under the influence of a total lunar eclipse himself. And for Bibi, Mercury rules his seventh house of open enemies. So, and basically confronting something, right? Seventh house descendant. So I do see like a rift going on. I mean, it's on the news that one is trying to tell the other to kind of, hey, back off, don't be so intense. But having said that, at the same time, there's also more funds that's allocated to arm Israel. So it's like a toss up of what interest.
Watch
is
what
there?
they do, not what they say. That's what I would say. All right, that's almost it for this video. Thank you so much to Donny for joining me. Do seek him out on YouTube and buy him a coffee if you're able.
Yeah, I mean, people can check out my YouTube and my Substack, and if you want to tip me, I'm more than glad. On Coffee, KO-FI, and it's all under the user rate Donny Lim, DONNYLIM. And you can find my other links to my other socials and also website via my link tree with the handle Alchemy Light, ALCHEMYLIGHT. Yeah.
All right, that's almost it for the first part of the video. We also have an extended bonus section coming up next for channel members, whether here on YouTube at any tier or on the website. In that section, Donny will take us through his thoughts about the total solar eclipse of August 2027 in Leo, which he thinks could signify the coming of a global war. Thanks for watching, and see you again on the channel very soon.